performance by our defense. Turned the ball over 4 times and was able to overcome that, which doesn't happen very often. So we move on. New challenge this week, Cal Berkeley. As far as the injuries in the game, none were season-ending, and so that's the only statement we'll have about that is that none of them were season-ending, and which is good news for us. We're back at home this week again against Cal. They've had some ups and downs this season. Started out 4-0, big win against the Huskies, and as of late, have not been able to continue that success. They've dropped a few, but we know they're a good football team. We know that they play outstanding defense, and we're gonna, they'll have all our attention this week, just like every week. There's no looking past anybody. There's no being distracted by what's going on throughout the rest of the league as far as who's positioned where. It's all completely focused on the Bears, and that's where we're at. So questions.
Kyle, talking about, if you watched the film of the game and that, about your defense and maybe the job Morgan Scalley's done this year.
Defense played outstanding. Like I said, the numbers were as good as I can ever remember as far as just from a statistical standpoint. I thought the plan was very good going in, but again, the plan's only as good as the players that are executing it, and the players did an outstanding job. The front four applied pressure all night long. The back end was outstanding, obviously, with the 4 completions on the entire night for 25 yards. I mean, that doesn't happen in this day and age of college football. So that was outstanding, and Morgan's doing a great job with those guys. Morgan and his staff. It's not just a one-man show. It's Morgan and the entire defensive staff. But again, it all boils down to players. That's the bottom line. Is your players, their talent level, and their just their mentality, the commitment that they have to what you're doing.
Jason Shelley obviously got the start last year when Tyler went down. What's been the difference this year where he's been splitting reps with Drew?
Well, Drew has really progressed, and pretty much a week-to-week thing. They've jockeyed back and forth for that number 2 spot, and Coach Ludd this past week thought that Drew had the better practice week, and so he got the nod when Tyler went down, and later in the game when we wanted to maybe up the dose of the Q run game because we were running the game, not a 4-minute offense, but just try to take some clock off. Jason is the better quarterback run guy, so that's why we made the switch in the next couple series, or the next time that Tyler exited, I should say.
Over the past 3 games, your defense has allowed opponents to convert just 18% of their third down opportunities. How much of that success rate is due to what you're doing on first and second down as the defense?
A lot of it, third and 8, third and 9 is a lot easier to defend than third and 1 or 2, and so first and second down have a great deal to do with your third down success. And so, the answer is it has a lot to do with it. And and that really stems from people not being able to run the ball. If they can't run the ball effectively, then they're going to find themselves in third and long a lot more often than if the run game is producing.
What have you seen on film from Cal's star player on defense, Evan Weaver?
Great player. I got a lot of respect for him. I've been watching him all season long. Just whenever you watch turn the games on the weekend, you can see him playing. He's a big, physical, tough linebacker, and makes a lot of plays. And I think he's a tremendous player. We think he's a tremendous player.
Herm Edwards said he apologized to you after the game for the way they played on some plays. What was your takeaway from the whole nature of the game?
I just was, I thought it was class act on him, or class move on him to apologize. I got no take on the rest of the stuff. I mean, I don't ever want to get into that. It was a physical game, hard-fought game. I'm not going to whine about anything or complain about anything. It's just a good physical game.
Kyle, I don't know if have you been able to watch the HBO behind the series with ASU and Florida, any of that stuff?
No, I have not.
So my question to you is, if HBO theoretically came to you and said, we want to spend a week with you behind the scenes, would you be receptive to that? Where are you kind of on the in-season?
I'd be receptive if I didn't have to be in it at all. But if I had to be in it, then it would probably be debatable. So, but when is it on? I didn't even know anything. Wednesday nights. My wife won't let me have HBO, so screwed there.
Going back to the quarterbacks, if Tyler wasn't able to go, who would be most likely to start of the other two? And then just what strengths does Drew give you as a quarterback that we don't know about?
If Tyler wasn't able to go, it will be it would be a competition. It would be, and like I said, it's every week. It's not just if Tyler's healthy. We got to know who number 2 is every week. And Drew Liske is an absolute student of the game. He's got complete understanding of the offense, and when I say these things, it's not that Jason doesn't, but I'm just giving you Drew's list. He's accurate throwing the football. It looked like he wasn't accurate on the one route at the sideline. That was a incorrectly run route. The route was supposed to break out, and the ball actually was where it was supposed to be, but the route didn't match up with it. Let's see, he threw 3 balls. He had a nice check down to Zach on the one that he really got whacked on, and then it was a catchable ball on the other one, the post route. And so Drew's accurate, really good decision maker. Jason, more athletic, better runner. And, of course, you got a good idea what Jason's about last year and the extensive playing time that he got last year. What?
Do you expect to have to defend the QB run game this week?
Well, I think that's an every week thing, just about an every week thing, and the backup, they're playing with the backup not exited. It might be in a concussion protocol thing. We're not sure what's going on with that, so there's a chance we could see the freshman. But yeah, you got to prepare for that every week. That's something that element is almost always present week in and week out.
With Cal's defense, you already talked about one of the standout players, but it seems like they know they're under the gun every week, and they know, the offense with the quarterback injury, they just don't seem to flinch. Why so consistent across the board? What have they got?
Well, Coach Wilcox is an outstanding defensive coach. He's had a lot of success throughout his career as a D coordinator, and he is just a really outstanding defensive mind, and you can see his influence and feel his influence on the defense, and they just take a lot of pride in what they're doing. And that's when you have a team that's united, you don't really get down on one side of the ball or the other. I mean, you just keep playing hard. That seems to be what they do. They don't care about what what success or lack of the offense might be having. They're just going to play hard and take pride in what they're doing.
Kyle, can you expand on the play of Jalen Johnson and the challenges he's met the last couple of weeks? He's obviously stepped forward.
Outstanding, and that's that is, as I've said so many times, such a weapon for a defensive coordinator to have the ability to take something away and know it's going to be taken away. Not hope, but just know it's going to be taken away. And what was it, one catch on the little tunnel screen for 7 or 8 yards, and that was it. That was the extent of the evening, and that is a tribute to Jalen. But as much as Jalen, this particular week, the front 4 had that quarterback on the run from start to finish, which really helps the secondary out.
Along those lines, what statistics do you look at in terms of pass defense, and why are you doing so well lately?
We look at pass defense efficiency. That's our number one barometer of how we're doing defensively, and the reason is because you really can't control how often a team throws. If a team's going to throw the ball 50 times, they're going to get 250 yards. It's just the nature of the beast. And so what you do is look at what's happening when they do throw it. What's their completion percentage, how many yards per attempt, touchdown to interception ratio. Those type of things are what we're looking at when we gauge how we're doing in pass coverage.
When Zach was kind of knocked out of the game temporarily, can you kind of explain what the actual concussion protocol is and how he was cleared to go back in the game?
Well, there's a series of tests. I'm not an expert on it. I know that there's a series of some of it's verbal, some questions, and some things that they put the athletes through that are suspected of concussion, and kind of like a drunk driving test. You probably wouldn't know about that, but there's some similarities there as far as just dexterity and awareness and that type of thing. But you get a lot better answer on that from our trainer than than I could give you.
If I remember right, this is the first year you've had the injury tent or the medical tent in place. What does that provide you in terms of sideline care to help these players?
Well, it keeps the TV cameras off the player and allows them to assess them and evaluate them without being disturbed and not having commentators make just guesses and trying to figure out what's going on based on what they see on the camera. It's just a more professional way to examine the player and not have the distraction of outside things going on.
Is there a deeper issue there and why your wife won't let you have HBO?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think there is some motivation there, but I don't know what it is exactly. But
hasn't been a lot of field goal kicking this year. Is that by design, trust in the offense, and maybe lack of trust in the field goal? What's the situation there?
Well, that's a good question because the attempts have been down. I think with our kicking situation, we feel like Jaden Redding is a very accurate kicker from about 48, 47 in, and we've had a couple fourth downs. I think it was consecutive weeks where we're right at the 30 or just slightly inside. I think it was a 4th and 7 and a 4th and 8 in back-to-back games, and it was just on the it's all percentages. We feel from 48, 49, he's about 50-50, and we had a chance in both those situations could have gone either way, but we decided to go for both of them. Both of them turned out, fortunately, in our favor. But we have no hesitation going to Jaden inside of 30 yards. It's just that we haven't been – those situations haven't arisen as much as years past. And when we've had Matt Gay and Andy Phillips, when you're on the 30 to all the way to about the 36 or 7, that's field goal territory for those guys. And so, Jaden's just a freshman. Maybe, in ensuing years he'll be able to extend the range. But for right now – based on the percentages, we just think he's best from about 47, 48 in. So,
the productivity in the run game until the touchdown run to make it 21, the productivity in the run game hadn't been as good as what you were used to. Some of that's obviously Arizona State, but are there some things you need to fix in that run game with Cal coming up?
Well, we didn't hit movement as well for a stretch in the game as we usually do. There were some twists and stunts that we didn't handle like we should have. They loaded the box up pretty good too at times. There was a lot of zone blitz in there, run zone blitzes, bringing 5 and 4 under 2 deep and 3 under 3 deep behind it, and so and they were second best run defense in the Pac-12 and amongst the top 10 or 12 in the nation, I think, going into the game, somewhere up there. And so we knew it was going to be tough sledding, just in general. But then they did some things that we didn't handle very well. In addition to that.
Cal, there's been a little separation in the standings, but the fact is you're not even halfway through the conference season. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of how you're looking at things at this point? There's a lot of football left.
Yeah, exactly. That we're not concerned with who's playing who yet and who's got to do this and who's got to lose and who's got to win. There's too much football. All we got to do is win this week. Our whole objective and our whole focus is trying to get a win this week and like I said, not get distracted by anybody else's business. Take care of our own business.
When Garbers was playing for Cal, their offense hadn't scored 30 in any of the games. Since he's been out, offense hasn't been in the 20s in any of the games. They've been in the teens. Does that affect your offensive game plan, knowing that their offense hasn't been that prolific?
Well, everything affects both sides of the ball, and we talk about that. We have a game management meeting every Friday and talk about the exact preliminary one on Sundays and then a final one on Friday, and it does play into it, because play Washington State, for example, you have to score points most times you play them. I mean, last game was an anomaly, but you run the offense maybe a little more wide open some weeks because of what you have to do and take a few more risks, or if you think that maybe it's going to be a little bit of a more low scoring game, then that'll affect you as well. So yeah, it does have an impact.
Can you just talk about the Pac-12 and the depth that it has this year? A lot of the lower teams have won games like Oregon State and UCLA, and it seems to be one of the deepest maybe it's ever been.
I think it is, and I think that's one of our greatest strengths and maybe our biggest weakness is that we cannibalize each other, and every week somebody knocks off somebody, and you always hear the term inexplicable win or loss. There is no inexplicable loss in college football, period, let alone the Pac-12. It's because it's college football, and you got to be ready to play every week. And to say, well, just because a team's favored by a couple touchdowns, how can you explain them losing? It's because of the nature of the game. I mean, there's so much emotion and the matchups, injury factor. I mean, there's just so much that goes on that, back to your original point, I think this is more balanced this year than maybe ever. Every week seems like somebody that you had no expectation of winning comes up with a win. And so that's just the nature of the game.
Was there any kind of theme of Bradley's 3 sacks the other night? And also, has he become a more complete player beyond a pass rusher?
Definitely has become a more complete player, and he was never bad against the run, but he's kind of like Tyler. He's for a senior year, he's playing his best football. He's a complete defensive end. There really is no weakness. He plays the run, he plays the pass. I'm not sure what you meant by theme of his 3 sacks.
What did he do to get those sacks?
Oh, he's making outstanding moves on that offensive tackle. We turned him loose 2 or 3 times for inside moves. I think he got a sack or 2 on the inside move, which you cover him with the D tackle, because if you're going to take a chance with the end, you got to have some coverage for him. And so again, that goes back to Scally's game plan and the coach's game plan of kind of structuring things for him to have some more freedom.
Kyle, you've mentioned your disdain for 8 p.m. kickoffs or just late kickoffs in general. I
really haven't said disdain.
No disdain.
Everyone asks me when you'd rather kick off. And
okay.
Yeah, I get tricked into that a lot. You guys ask me a question, and you make it sound like I brought it up, and it was my thought. But
well, my question is knowing that you want to get to the game as soon as possible, when you have an 8 p.m. kick, how does Kyle Whittingham kill 12 hours of time when he wakes up on a
Work
Saturday?
out for about 4 hours of it. That's first thing.
Arms an hour, back an hour.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Abs. Try to work on my 6-pack. But it's challenging now on Saturdays. It's a heck of a lot easier than on a Thursday or Friday, because you watch college football in addition to that. I mean, you're watching games all day long, and it's actually can be kind of entertaining some days. But no, no. Gilligan's Island maybe, but and in fact, to illustrate how old I'm getting, I love Gilligan's Island. I used to watch it all the time, and Mrs. Howell looked ancient when I used to watch it. I watched it the other day, and she looked young. And I'm thinking, seriously, I couldn't believe it, because it had been a big gap since I'd watched it, and I thought, the lady that used to look really old now looks way younger than me. So, anyway, sidebar. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a football coach. Yeah, I didn't know Kyle. I've known Kyle Whittingham for 15 years. I had no idea that he was a Gilligan's Island fan.